Well, let's work with Visual Basic, but let's add a database to our project. And there are two different databases that we normally work with the Visual Studio. Probably the first is SQL Server from Microsoft. And what we're going to work with today is Microsoft Access. Now, these are two different types of databases. Uh, but the one that we work with today is maybe a little bit easier and faster to work with. But whenever anything is a little bit easier and a little bit faster to work with, you're going to lose some things on the back end. And Microsoft Access, while it's a great little database to work with, and it can do pretty much everything that you would need to do, it's not really good for large scale. Um, but let's go ahead and take a look at it, and it may work out just fine for what we're going to do, which is a really basic application. So let's go ahead and start, and let's just make a new project, and let's make this a Visual Basic Windows application, and we'll just go with the basic Windows application form. Uh, and what do we want to call this? Database test. Okay. Let me make sure we know where we're going to be saving it to. Okay. We're okay with that, so it's going to take a second to build and okay. Now, we've got our form here, so nothing new with this. But one of the things that we want to do is that we've got our application and we've got our database. Two different things. Okay, so let's make a connection from our application to our database. So our database is one program and our application is another program, and we need to connect those two. This is Visual Studio 2008 and working with Visual Basic. Let's go take a look at data, and let's right now, well, there may be some, okay, there are no data sources with this particular project. Okay, so we can add a new data source. So if I go to data, add new data source, or I can click it over here either way. So add a new data source. It's going to be a database, and we want to go make a new connection to our database. So we want to connect our application to our database. So I'm going to have to go track down my database. What type of database is it? Well, it's a Microsoft Access database. Database file name, well, we need to go track it down. So I'm going to go browse to find it. And I have the Northwind database, or part of it. Northwind is kind of a traditional database that is used for testing, and it has a lot of data in it already. So it's a handy little database to test, and you can find this. You can download this. I'll have it. I'll post it on the site when we're done with this. Okay, so this is the database, and I need to know the location right now. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this into, here's my application that I'm running, and I'm going to copy this into my application. We'll see what that is later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open this location. So I'm telling Visual Studio I'm going to go find a Microsoft Access database, and here's the location of it. Now, I don't have a username or password on this database right now, so I can test my connection, and The connection succeeded okay, so it looks like I'm good to go. So I'm going to click OK. Let me go to next. And it says the connection you selected uses a local data file that is not in the current project. And this is what I was talking about earlier, is that I'm going to copy this into my project. Would you like to copy the file to your project and modify the connection? So when you're done with your application and you're ready to deploy your application, the database will already be saved inside of your application, so you won't have to go track it down or build a link to it or anything else. It will already be built into your application. This isn't always possible, and there's other ways to make a connection. Say your database is somewhere on a server on the other side of the world. Well, you may not want to copy it into your application, but just build a link to it. Okay, so yeah, in this case we want to copy this into our application. What's the name of this connection string? So now we've got a connection between our application and our database. And this string, can I go back? Let's see. And here's this string which says this is where this the Northwind database is located at. Okay, so that's our connection string. What it's doing is just connecting our application to our database. Okay, and this is the name that we give to that string. Okay, so here we found our database, and in this particular application, what do we want to use? Well, I'm just going to select all the tables for now. The views, maybe some other time we might want to use the views, but for now I'm not sure which one of the tables I want to use in my database, so I'm just going to select all of them. Okay, finish. Takes a minute. Okay. So over here we've got our servers, database servers, and our data sources. And if you don't see those, you can go to View and you can actually display those. And they're here somewhere. Oops. Views. Okay. So Server Explorer, if I wanted to see that. Okay. Okay, and we've got our this is the source of our data. So for our application, let me pin that down. For our application, that's the source of our data. So under here, you notice that we have our Northwind database now. And let me double click that. And I can actually pull up my Access database right now. Okay. 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 So let me go back to my data sources, or show data source. And let's see, how about if we go with customers? And what we're going to do is let's go with data grid view. Let's go with that first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this table. Let me broaden this out because I think this is going to be maybe pretty big. So and let's take a look at the grid view first. Takes a second, and there it is. Okay. Now, this is going to be pretty big, but yeah, let's make it as big as we can. What I could do is dock this inside of this control, but I want a little flexibility on. Okay. Well, believe it or not, that's it. It built a lot of this code in for you, so you didn't even have to worry about that. Now, you could have dressed your form up a little bit, but let's look at that on the next example. So let's try it out. Debug, start debugging. And there we've got our application. We've got our database. Now, I could have, like I said, I could have made this bigger if I wanted to, but just something to start off with. So we can scroll through these one at a time. You notice there's 91 of these. We can go to the end. We can jump back to the beginning. We could delete. If I select one of these, I could delete that one. If I wanted to, I could add a new record. Okay. So each one of these columns going up and down is a field. And each one of these rows going across is a record. And this is just one table out of many tables. And all of those tables together are inside of your database. So the structure is you've got your database, which encompasses everything. And then inside of your database, you have your tables. And inside of your tables, you have your fields and your records. And each one of these different cells is a piece of data inside of your cell. So a record is a series of fields, related fields. So for this particular customer, and there's the customer ID, there are all the related fields that go along with this particular record. Okay, so we've done that. I'm going to stop that. And now, I said I wanted to, let me unpin this so I got a little more room to work here. What I could do, and I still, I could dress this up a little bit so that I can, where's my toolbox? Okay. Common controls, so I can still add all the other things that go along with this. Say I wanted add a button control, and maybe this button, give it a name of BTN exit, and what I want it to say on the text is exit, and I'm going to put the coding in, which is me, which is this particular form or this class. Close. Sounds permitted, but that's what it's going to do. Okay. So that's a method, so it's got the parentheses after it. So when you click that button, when you click the button exit, it will close this form. Okay. And then I could add other stuff in here. I could put some labels in here and maybe make it look a little bit better, saying this is my customer database or whatever. Okay. I'm going to save that. And tell you what, let's add another form. Let's do it. Let's do something a little different. Let me unpin that. I'm going to go to my solution or project here, and I'm going to add a new form, and I can add a new item, but one of the choices here is Windows Form. So I could either go to New Item and track it down, or I can just go to Windows Form. Go to New Item. And under New Item, there's a lot of different things that you can add. And one of them is a Windows Form. And it says Form 2. Let's add this. So I've got another one on here, and I want this form to connect to my database. Okay. So let's go take a look at our data sources again. Let's show our data sources. And again, we've got our data source for, and this one, let's go with employees. And in this particular case, let's go with details view. Okay. And I could drag each one of these on here individually, but I'm going to go grab and I'm going to go pull all these on here. And that's going to make a bunch of them. So just to, okay, let me select the form, pull this out just a bit. Now you notice I've got it automatically gave me a lot of the programming for you. The table adapter manager and the employee table adapter, all the binding. So what we're doing is that we're binding our data to our application. Okay. Let's see, which one of these say I wanted to delete one of these. How about reports 2? And select that and delete it. Pretty nice, huh? If I wanted to, how about if I do this? I'm going to click and drag and select this and move these over here. Let me see if I've got room to do this. Broaden this out a little bit. Now put this over here. Okay. So I can rearrange these is my point. Okay. Okay. Now okay, so I'm going to run this. I'm going to debug this, but did I save this? Let me go save this. I'm going to test this or debug it. So when I go to debug it, see what the problem is here. Now see the form I've got now. This is what I want to debug. So let me go to debug, start debugging, and hey, wait a minute. This is the first form that I was working with. How come I'm getting the first form? Well, let me stop this. And let's take a look. Under our project, we've got our database properties for that. And under our database properties, we've got which form do you want to start with? And this one says form 1. Well, I don't want to start with that one. I want to start with the one we just made, which is database 2. Okay. All right. So let's save that. And now let's go debug, start debugging. Okay, so there we've got it. So again, I can scroll through each one of these back and forth. I could go in and add a new item, add a new person on there if I wanted to. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So that's creating a database. Now, what we've done already in class is that I could link these to forms. Oops, if I can get to it. Now I could link these two forms. I could maybe have a button here that said click on it and it would go to the second form. So, you want me to do that? Okay, how about if I do that? Where's my toolbox at? Toolbox, button. Now, can I not make this, take time to make this pretty, but just functional? Okay, here's my button. I'm going to double click on this to get to the coding area. Maybe I should say. What I went on here, I think that was employee stuff. Employee data. Okay, let me double click on this to get to the coding. So I've got my coding for this particular button on my form 1. So got my coding for employee data. What I want to do is I want to go get that, what was the name of that form? Database2.bb. And so let me do that. Database2. I want to show dialog. Okay, that's it. And let's try it, run it. Okay, debug, start debugging. And it will, oops, wait a minute. I'm coming up with the wrong form. Gotta start off with the right form. And I want to start with form 1. Okay, let's save that, close that out. Now let's try it. Debug, start debugging. And I want to, so say I've got my database that I'm working with. I know this is not pretty, but, and then I've got my employee data. So I'm working on this one. Say I want to go to another one, click on my employee data, and then I can go and maybe I want to add some records to this one, and then I can finish that one out. All right, that's it. Well, that's all for now. What another thing that we could do is that we could have these work off of a menu where and have them all docked inside of this, so that maybe you only want one form to show at a time. But that's for another video. All right, that's all. That should get you going with a pretty basic database. So, thank you.